A lot of my projects have to do with landscape, which means I do projects in the landscape. Like I call it situational art or site-specific work, which means I go out in landscapes, I explore them, and sometimes those are art research projects, which means I do research about a place and maybe about the history of the place and maybe about the people in that place and how things changed over time, but always in context to the land and the landscape and to like the human person, how we experience landscape or environment, and how people have made do with, even sometimes with very strange environments, like very hot or very hostile environments, especially in the United States, where you have deserts and, you know, places that are actually not so easy to live in. I also have one other project that's participatory, where I work with people, and that is a drawing project. It's on very big paper that we lay out on the ground. People draw with very fine tip pens. I've done that several times with different populations, with children as well, middle school and high school students, as well as with a group of writers in an artist retreat one time. And sometimes just everybody, just people. Like one time I did it with a small museum in Berkeley, in California. And it's really fun. In a sense, it's very similar to the snow drawings in a way it's made. And then in the end, you have this really big drawing, and we have been cutting them up into smaller pieces. So we have been framing. I gave people, frames from picture frames, and they would draw around them, and then they would cut out like little compositions, so they could take little compositions home with them. Projects sometimes happen, just almost like by accident. Like I do something, and all of a sudden I notice that it has more potential. And I think this is how artists work a lot. We explore, we try out things, we play around, and we sometimes don't know quite what we are actually doing. And all of a sudden it comes around, and it makes sense. It clicks. It's like, oh, yes. Like with the snow drawings in the beginning, I was just doing this, and I thought I was just doing this for fun, and I started photographing it, and then I noticed that with the sun it does this interesting thing, and that's when I thought, maybe I should do some more. But I still wasn't thinking about anything big, right? And and then somehow this whole big thing came about, which I've been doing in so many places with so many people now, and it's been really fun. So I think this is what happens to artists a lot, that you can't really predict what you do. Snow drawings involves other people in the project, so it's participatory. So I always give an introduction where I explain to people what I call a pattern system. So it is based on spiral shapes, and there's a lot of variation how they can walk these, usually from inside out because it's easier, but then they can walk them really big, or they can walk them smaller, or they can walk them very dense or very white. It's about how people perceive this explanation and how they interpret my explanation to them. So this is one other thing that's unpredictable, because it depends on so many things, not just the weather and the landscape, but also the people who participate and how they interpret my explanation. The biggest pieces I have done, I have worked with 70 or 75 people. And sometimes they are 2-day projects. So we start on Saturday, we work all of Saturday, and then we continue on Sunday, and we work all of Sunday. It actually started as a project just on my own. I was making these designs, walking with snowshoes in the snow. And I did this on my own for a while. In the beginning, just out of play. I didn't even think this was serious art. I thought it was just playing in the snow. And I took photos of it, and they were quite interesting. That made me wonder if I could share this experience, being out in the landscape, sometimes for hours and hours, just walking these circles, which is meditative. and also is landscape experience, because you are in that same landscape for quite a long time. It's different from skiing or from hiking, where you just walk through the landscape and it changes all the time. But rather in this, you are in the same landscape and it evolves around you because you walk all these spirals. So I found this very meditative, and I thought I could share this with other people, while at the same time we would then be able to create a very big drawing. I want people, participants, to have a great time, to have fun, to enjoy this, to have a great outdoor experience and a communal experience of creating something together, something really big. It is for me, in a sense, environmental art, because it brings attention to the landscape and to the environment. Because in a way, the patterns lay themselves into the landscape like some sort of ornament. And they, in a sense, enhance the landscape, which I think works really well, because all of a sudden people look at the landscape and hopefully this makes people understand, oh my God, this landscape, this environment is so important. You know, we can't put drilling rigs there, we can't do gas fracking. I hope that it gets people's minds going, that it gets them into a different mindset about what environment really means and how important it is, because they look at it in a different way. They're not just looking at my artwork, they are looking at my artwork in the context of the environment, and I think that is what is important to me. So it is in a sense a way to enhance the environment, to make it more visible. It is about exploring your own freedom in this meditative walk and going into yourself. And your freedom in the land, which, you know, you get a feeling of freedom if you are out in big landscapes on your own, walking these patterns. And yet it is a group action, which is kind of sounds contradictory, but I think it works. Of course, all of these pieces are extremely ephemeral, and I like this about them. We as people have already put so many things on this planet. It's enough. We don't need more things. So I don't mind at all that it just melts away, or the snow covers it over and it's gone. It's totally fine with me that there is nothing left of it other than just the documentation. I think it's beautiful. It's the beauty of it.